6 Old Main Street.
All right. So the next one I'm going to present is actually going to go a little bit out of order. North Oak Academy. I know they have multiple representatives online with us. So North Oak Academy, they are an NHA school. They are currently in a 1-year delay. They have had some difficulties working with Durham County. They had tried to get open for this upcoming fall, and now we're actually, I believe, in litigation with the county. So they are asking for a second 1-year delay. And as you know, and as the board knows, the North Oak Academy board knows, this is the last delay they can ask for, and then they would open in year 3. You can see the revised enrollment chart, which would be K through 5, and a projected enrollment of 520 students. I know their difficulties have come about due to preventions of the school accessing water and sewer utilities. So if there are any other questions, I'm gonna let I believe it's the board chair, Mr. McNair, is that you?
Yes, good morning. How's everybody?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is,
Do you guys have any specific
go ahead.
questions for him?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I was gonna let the board ask any questions.
I guess my question, I'm not really sure this question's for Mr. McNair. I thought there was a law passed, or at least I know it was talked about in the last session, that would make it illegal for counties to refuse to give you water and sewer.
You're absolutely
Jamie, do
right.
you know anything about that?
Absolutely. I was very much involved in that whole process, met with the key legislators to discuss it. However, Durham City Council has decided to still not allow us to have access to water and sewer. So we have already initiated a lawsuit against them. And we have our NHA team online and available to talk about that as well.
Hey, Chairwoman Turner, is legal on the phone? Yes, that law did pass, and we work with the legislature as well to make sure that schools would get plumbing and water. Is legal on the phone? Is this something that they can weigh in on?
We have legal here with us.
This is Forrest. I'm here. I'm not familiar with that and can't really speak to that right now, especially out in the open. But can look into it.
Okay. I'll talk to you offline too.
Yeah, please do, because I thought that the reason that we lobbied so hard to get this law was to eliminate this specific thing. Okay, well, given that the litigation's ongoing, given that there's a law that says you can't do this anyway, I would request somebody to make a motion to approve their delay.
Yes, definitely.
Parlay must recuse.
This is Lynn. I make a motion to approve North Oak second delay request.
I'll second that motion.
Being properly moved and seconded, is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ashley, could you please take a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. John Eldridge,
Aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Lynn Kroger,
Aye.
Hilda Parlay,
Recuses.
oh, sorry, Shelley Bowler,
Aye.
Cheryl Turner,
Aye.
Todd Godby,
Aye.
Eric Sanchez.
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously, and Mr. McNair and NHA folks, I will be in touch with you. We will take this to state board next month, and then we'll keep you posted on the timeline.
Thank
Hey,
you very
can
much.
I ask a question with North Oak on the phone or on the line? How long would it take to say Durham was either did it tomorrow or was required to by law, which they are supposed to? How long would it take for all the water and sewage and everything to be up to standards for opening up a school?
Jeff Chamberlain, our NHA director, I believe he's on this line. He can answer that question.
I am. Thank you. This is Jeff Chamberlain. I'm the Director of Real Estate for National Heritage Academies. The water and sewer is at the site. It doesn't need to be extended. Water is in the front frontage of the site, and the sewer is next door with easements already in place to our site. So I don't know if you were physically asking how long it takes, but it's there. So no time.
What I'm asking is if say this happened in the next 2 weeks, could you open up next year?
Yes.
Or this is it? Okay. So is it,
Yeah.
or do you want to delay because you don't know how long this process? Well, obviously we don't know how long this process is going to take. But what I'm asking is this something that as soon as this gets turned on and fixed, you would be able to open up?
No, the school's not under construction.
Okay. You haven't even started the construction yet. Okay, my apologies. Okay.
I thought your question was if the lawsuit was resolved in 2 weeks, would the school be able to open in 23? And I think that answer is yes.
Okay.
But I don't think it's going to be resolved that quickly. And we're hoping for at least a trial court resolution this summer, at which point, I don't know if Durham would appeal or not.
Okay.
Well,
Thanks
assuming
for all that.
that we win. Sure. Sorry.
How can you not win if there's already a law that says you can't do this?
Yeah, this is absurd.
The law technically, and I'm not an attorney and I shouldn't speak for the city of Durham. However, it appears their interpretation of the law is the law only requires a reservation of water and sewer capacity, not an actual connection of water and sewer.
That's ludicrous.
Yeah. Well, I work for the superintendent, so I will work with state board staff and DPI attorneys to walk them through why this law was passed, and we'll try to work with you on all this.
Thank you, Jamie.
Really.
Okay, what's next, Ashley?
So the next amendment I have is Revitalized Charter School. So this is also a planning year school that's not open yet. They are scheduled to open this fall, and in their initial application, they projected 200 students for year one, and they are coming before you to decrease that number. So you'll see, let me pull up the chart. It's on eBoard. They are decreasing that to 125. That would require, in order to meet that like 75% minimum guideline standard that we look for our RTO schools, that would require them to enroll about 94 students to get past that 75%. They have submitted the necessary items, and there's also a new budget that they've submitted that I've posted on eBoard. And if you have specific questions, I know that they came in person. They're a Wake County school. So the school founder, and I believe she's going to be the leader. Are you going to be the leader? Yes. Ansel Caceres is
Okay,
here.
Let me make sure I understand.
Yes.
They are asking to decrease the number of students, their total number of students, so that their 75% goes down. So not only are they not thinking they can make the number of students they projected, they aren't even thinking they could make the full number of students they're now projecting. They're just trying to get to a number so that they can have enough students to be able to open even though they didn't make their numbers. Is that correct?
She will be able to tell you how many they're at right now, but she did come to our office, and staff spoke with the school about the kind of 75% requirement, and we did suggest that they make this amendment because they're, from what it looked like at the time, they were not going to meet that. So she's here so she can give you a specific update as of today.
Okay.
Where they're at, but yes.
Okay, could you tell us, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Who are we talking to?
This is Ansel Caceres. I'm the founder.
I'm sorry.
This is Ansel Caceres.
Okay. Could you please tell us where you are right now?
Sure. We're a little over 50 students enrolled. We did lower the number, keeping the RTO requirement in mind, just because at the time we were like 6 weeks out from it. there have been a few challenges that have kind of reset our marketing. One being that we went with our facility B, and so if you remember, our facility A was where Casa Esperanza was, which is about 20 minutes from our current location, and now we're in our target location, and so that shift officially happened I think in about beginning to mid-January. And so a lot of the students that we had interest forms from, and the families that we had interest from, it kind of shifted where we were marketing and who was kind of coming to us. And so that was part
Right,
of the reason we went.
You were going into Casa Esperanza. That is where you are currently, now you are actually going into Casa Esperanza, that you're going to be in there?
So our facility A at the time, when we were recommended for approval, we were still going with Casa Esperanza's space on Sumner Boulevard. And so that was like October, right? And then by January, we ended up switching over to our facility B because Casa's team couldn't really guarantee that their space would be ready for us. And so it was just too big of a risk to take.
And where's facility B?
The Garner Road Community Center, and so that's in 27610.
Okay.
Yeah.
How far is that from where you said you were going to be?
About 15 to 20 minutes. And we're still providing transportation for students, and so we're still marketing in all of Raleigh, right, in all of Wake County, but we do know that a lot of our students are coming from a lot closer to our current facility.
So if I remember correctly, when we were going through this application, this issue of was Casa Esperanza going to be available came up several times, and we were assured over and over and over it was going to work out. Now you're telling me it's not going to work out.
Yeah, we, you know, our conversations with their board at the time, that's what it seemed like was going to happen, right? As we got closer to really getting some things down on paper and moving forward with lease negotiations, they suggested, and they said they can give us the lease, but they wanted to let us know that it's not guaranteed, and then they wanted to shift it to October start date or a November start date for our facility, and that was just a lot for that would be a lot for our families. Our board decided, and so we just decided to go with our facility B since it was also in our target location that we identified in our application.
Okay, and facility B is currently ready for occupancy?
Yes, well, we have a renovation schedule that Garner Roads Community Centers Board has provided for us, and they are fixing some things in the space, but it should be ready for us. And so we wanted to stick with them, and because eventually our forever home will be in that area.
Okay, and what about the capacity of your facility B?
So we'll be able to be there for about 2 years without modulars, and then up to 4 years with modulars. Possibly 5. They have a pretty big parking lot, but we are also in the midst of getting some quotes out and getting those specifics for future years.
And then that would hold how many students?
It would hold up to our current end of year 4, so 332 is what we are anticipating, but we're still getting those specifics, so it may be a little bit more. They have a pretty large outdoor space outside the actual building.
You do understand that if you lower your number, your target number, your projected number, that you then do not have the option of getting paid for your original number.
Yes.
So if you lower your number to 125 so that you can get to 75%, but you actually were able to enroll your original number, that's no longer an option. That 125 is the max you can get paid for.
Yeah. I mean, it's a conversation our board has had several times. I think with today's April 11th, with May RTO approaching in less than a month and a half, we want to make sure that we are ready to open for those families that are enrolled and are interested in our school and not meet our 75%. And then as we move forward, we talked about the possibility of just amending that and possibly expanding in the future. And so if you look at our total projected student enrollment as the years go on, we tried our best to kind of close that gap as we went. We provided if you scroll down from that sheet, the justification sheet, there's a breakdown per year, per grade that we added. And so we tried our best to kind of increase that as we went. And knowing that, as we open and more people are aware of our school and what we hope our outcomes will be, we'll also be able to increase that enrollment. We've also, very recently partnered with the Raleigh Housing Authority, and just last week got over 1,500 brochures to those families that are living there. We've been at daycares and just really speaking to our target population. And so, that's part of what we've been doing to increase our numbers.
Ashley, can you pull up the revised budget?
Yeah, because
While you're pulling that up, Ansel, with the current proposal of 125, you understand that 75% would be 93 students enrolled. Did you currently say you're at 50?
We're in the 50s.
And is that firm enrollment?
Yeah.
And so we have a May RTO date.
Yep.
Does your board have concerns about that?
They do.
Mm-hmm.
They do. And that's part of what, we're hoping that a lot of our applications are going to come from these partnerships with the Raleigh Housing Authority. These are conversations that we've had with them for a few months, and we finally have gotten those out.
Mm-hmm.
We've been speaking at, and posted up at dismissal, we have one today, of several of the daycares in the area, just speaking to families in person. I think our model is pretty innovative, and even, in comparison to some of the charters that are here in our state. And so, a lot of these conversations happening in person has been really helpful. Something that we weren't really able to do, when COVID numbers were a little higher and our daycares were taking some more precautions. So now we're able to do that in person. And so we're confident about meeting those numbers.
Remind us, what is the innovative piece of your model?
So we are essentially really looking to shift the way we see holistic education. Our SEL plans to provide social emotional learning in the small group setting is one that we really haven't seen done in the way that we are proposing and what we have planned for. Our core instruction will be taught through small groups, and they're fluid. So students are able to move within their classrooms in a small group that fits what they need. They're able to move to another class or another grade as necessary. And we're really looking to give an individualized experience for children, and using both qualitative and quantitative practices and data collection cycles to provide that for our families, for our students. And then we're project-based, and not just in a culturally relevant way, but what we consider community relevant. Our projects are not, diagrams that our students are going to just kind of hold up and kind of clap out, which is wonderful. But we are also looking for our children to be a part of positive change in their communities at 5, 6, 7 years old. And so that may be, a call to action. That may be, improving their community gardens. That, identifying what that problem is in the set of, the community that they're able to understand and be a part of in their learning and their social studies and science lessons, and then take action, right? Be a part of that change from youth. We often come back to this premise of why not me, why not now? We think our children are capable, and when given the tools and the resources, they'll be able to thrive and see themselves as leaders within their communities.
Mm-hmm. What does your board determine as the break-even number for enrollment?
Cheryl, I don't, did you submit a budget, Ansel?
Did I emailed it to you separately? I can send it right now.
Okay, she's gonna send it to me.
Okay. I've got some concerns on this one. For one thing, we're talking a month from now, you have to almost double the number of kids you've already enrolled, just to get to the 75% of the new number. That's a little concerning.
It's very concerning.
I was just doing rough numbers at about $8,000 per student, $8,800 per student. It's like a $1,100,000 budget, and if 69% of that would be about staff. I mean, it's normal about 70% of staffing. That leaves like $341,000 for lease, supplies, bills, transportation, maintenance, custodians.
And it looks like they're counting on getting a CSP grant, implementation grant, but that's not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed, but we do meet all of the eligibility requirements. And we were, we looked at the lowest amount that schools have gotten in the implementation phase and worked that into the budget, which is $250,000.
Well, what you need to consider is there's not as much money available at this point as there was when those schools applied. I don't know. I think I heard Jay talk about this at the state board, but I can't remember exactly how much they had to work with, but it's not a ton of money. And so the grants may not be as large as they were initially.
Well, we were, I don't know the exact number either, but we were on a call recently with the other 3 schools that qualified for implementation this year. And we were talking about, well, there wasn't an exact formula, right, to calculate how much we're eligible
Right.
for. It was that we could think about that lowest amount as what was probable.
What would possibly be available?
Yeah. And we were trying to figure out, like, an exact formula based on ADM and based on whatever, but, that's not the way the formulas work, and it wasn't just based on ADM or county. There were so many pieces
Right.
that were taken into account.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hey Cheryl, this is Jay. So
Oh, hey, Jay.
I'm going to explain this a little bit later this morning, but our competition, they will have a maximum of $400,000 that they can apply for. Obviously, there'll be some flexibility, and based on, I think, what you all understand about the process, there's a number of factors that go into that, but we would plan on the maximum being $400,000, and so that could obviously.
Okay, there are 4 schools. They said that there were 4 schools that are eligible. Do you anticipate that you are going to be able to offer grants, that you could conceivably offer grants to all 4?
So currently there are 3 schools that are eligible, and we are projecting right now about $730,000 remaining. So that would be roughly, if all schools were awarded equally, that would be roughly $250,000 per school. There's always the possibility that more money comes back based on monitoring and other factors over the summer, and we want to have some flexibility around that. But the short answer to your question is, yes, there is the possibility that all 3 schools could get around $250,000.
Are there stipulations to that money? I mean, what's that money allotted for?
So it would be the same NC access regulations that all the other.
Okay, so it's an access. Okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
correct.
And it's a reimbursable grant.
Correct.
And essentially what is involved here is they can't even survive if they don't get it. And that's with the lowered number that they still are only about 50%. The lower number of the 75% of which they are only currently about 50% of.
Or less.
Yeah, I think, as we're thinking about our, like, internally, right, from our board, just kind of thinking about our enrollment efforts and marketing efforts that we have, a lot of it has increased in the past month and a half, and so our ability to go into, daycares now when we weren't able to before, the option to, we were able to provide over 1,500 brochures to the Raleigh Housing Authority, which is really our target population. And so we're hoping that that number increases significantly over these next few weeks through those efforts. Those things we weren't able to do that before. A lot of our marketing was through social media and through small business posters in the areas and events that we were going to. But even that during the winter as well as during COVID time, we weren't able to do that before. And so we're hoping that these efforts will allow us to increase those numbers.
And so I don't know if you came across your break-even number, but what I found in reading your narrative about the budget impact to this, to your new proposal and the budget changes, the numbers are just like a grand overview, estimates and rounding and that kind of thing, and you're not into the nitty-gritty of the per student cost and the per pupil funding and how the school will manage this. And I think your board needs to do that. I'm sure you have a finance person on your board. And I think you need to get down to the very nitty-gritty of the dollars and cents of making this work, because your numbers are much lower than projected in the original budget, and now your impact change statement is just rather loose. And it won't work loosely. You've got to really know your numbers and make it work if you want to make it work financially.
Yeah, I hear you, and we can go back and provide an updated version of it with all of those specifics.
That would be good.
Yeah, aren't you going into Southeast Raleigh?
Yes.
And there may be some potential for, but you're only open in K1 too, right?
Right.
Yep, initially K1 too. And we know, given some of the circumstances recently that, we potentially can be getting several students from a particular school, which we've also taken into account and started some marketing in those areas.
Have you done any research into, like, you're depending really heavily on the housing authority, but you're talking about kids who are ages 5 to 7. Have you even looked into how many kids 5 to 7 there are living in the housing authority?
That wasn't information that's public, right? That we're able to access, and we did inquire. It's just not something that we were given, which is why we haven't just relied on the Raleigh Housing Authority. That just happened to be one of the marketing efforts that has given us the opportunity to reach several families, right, at once. We have been reaching out to a lot of the daycares, and so that's where we've been spending a lot of our time for the last few weeks. A lot of the daycares in the area have after-school programs, and because we provide transportation, we're able to, like for the after-school, for the older students, right, our first grade and second graders, we'll be able to use those daycares as a drop-off location, and that's been one of the factors that have kind of opened up some of our daycare owners and directors, right, knowing that they're not losing their students because they're opening up their doors to us and allowing us to speak to their families.
Well, have you considered in-person info sessions?
Say that one more time?
Have you considered in-person info sessions?
Yeah.
Where people come and
that's
they
what
can
we've
sign
been
up,
doing through the daycares.
register?
Well, that's what we've been doing at the daycares, and so we've had, paper versions of our applications. We have, our online, they can sign up right there. We're able to talk to them. These in-person conversations have actually been a lot more helpful than, the online marketing. Families have tons of questions.
Yeah, but can they register?
Yes.
Can they apply really while they're there? Maybe have more of those in other places.
Did she answer that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, she did. She said yes. Okay. Any other questions before we discuss it as a board? Hearing none. What are you guys thinking?
Well, I have concerns that they will be able to hit the new number. Obviously, we would hope to see that. Currently, it's not trending that well, but the proposal would help facilitate these new numbers. Again, I think the budget is so incredibly loose that they need to really get down to the dollars and cents so that they can make it work financially. It's a really critical part of their success.
Yeah, that's my concern. Well, I have a couple of concerns. One is that really we're not talking about meeting the 125 or whatever it is. They're talking about getting to 75% of the 125. So not having a break-even number is concerning. if we lower this and they get to 75% of the 125, but don't ever get to the 125, we haven't really seen a budget that tells us whether or not it works at 92. And that's very concerning. They've had since whenever they started to get to now, and they're at 50, but in the next 4 weeks, they plan to double that. I just see all kinds of red flags on this one all over the place.
And then to assume that they will receive $250,000 from the NC Access grant.
And that's a reimbursement.
That's an assumption.
That's a reimbursement
And
grant.
it's reimbursable, so they have to have the money up front to pay for the stuff to get the money back. I mean, you can get it monthly, but still, they have to have some money up front to get it done. I don't know.
But if we don't approve it, they're not gonna meet the numbers, original numbers for sure, and they would definitely have to relinquish their charter.
So those are the options, right?
Yeah, and I guess in all honesty, I'm not feeling confident they're going to make these numbers anyway, even the new numbers. But my bigger concern is they do make the new number, but they don't make the 125, and then they have financial issues.
And they will.
Can there be
Because,
one year?
yeah.
Can we? propose
There's no
one
budget
year?
here to tell us that this can even, they can't even give us a break even.
Can we propose a 1 year delay? I mean, I know we approved this as accelerated. That's the only thing that,
Oh, if it
we
was-
have such
if it
huge
was a-
criteria for accelerated. They applied for accelerated. So I'm not sure if I
Yeah.
really like that option either, but
I don't think we can approve a delay for accelerated.
okay.
And I had forgotten it was accelerated. Given that it was an acceleration, then I have even more concerns about, because the criteria to be accelerated is so stringent. And so part of the reason that it got approved as accelerated is they had a facility. Turns out they don't have that facility. And they have a plan for students. Turns out they don't have a strong plan for students. So now my question is, do they really qualify for accelerated? But a 1 year delay is not an option for accelerated, because theoretically you were ready to go. That was why you asked for acceleration.
A point of clarification, so let's say they hit the 75% and 92 students are enrolled, but then the first day of school only 90 show up. What does that do?
As long as 90 show up, they can stay open.
Even though they didn't hit the 75% mark?
Right, because if they had 92 enrolled, which gave them the 75%, we're going to let them go forward.
Okay.
If day one, they only get 90, they're required to have, I think, 80 by law. So as long as they had that many, they can stay open. However, financially, they're going to be up the proverbial creek.
Yeah,
because they're only going to get paid for who shows up.
I just can't see how you make a budget work for 92 students. I don't know. I'd need to see it on paper.
And we had approved in the past schools. I remember when we got to the ready to open status, and they barely made the 80. And I don't think maybe one of them made it through, but the others had to relinquish their charter, if I remember correctly.
And then, if you remember Blue Green, we approved that one, and then they ended up having to give up the charter the next year because they never did get to the number they needed.
I think for us going forward as a board, when a school comes in with an amendment that reduces their enrollment by almost half, we should request a new budget. It's a completely new scenario. Just for us moving forward.
And this was an acceleration, you guys. Like, that says we're ready to go. That's the whole point for applying for acceleration. Now, we don't need a planning year because we're ready to go. And that's obviously not the case.
Right, and they also had to demonstrate demand for the school, and I'm not sure where that went. It seems to have partially dissipated at least.
Yeah, I'm inclined to say, this is what you told us you could do. You said you could do it in a short period of time. You now either have to do it or relinquish your charter.
Cheryl, this is Eric. I completely agree. I think that's exactly where we're at.
It's a hard message to deliver, but again, the board proposed initially, they set themselves up for stringent standards to be accelerated and move forward because they were that ready. And so this would be the consequence of that if you're not.
Yeah, I kind of am leaning there. They've got a month. They are really going to have to work. There may be, some movement in Southeast Raleigh, that could help them out. But that kind of still remains to be seen. But at any rate, at the point that they presented to us, that wasn't even an option. And they still presented themselves as being ready to open in less than without the planning year. And so I feel like you put yourself in that situation. You said you could do this. You gotta do it. I am not comfortable with, okay, well, we said we could do it, but now none of the things we told you are actually working out. Now we want to back down. And we don't even really have all the numbers together on what it would look like if we back down.
Yeah, I think it's a bad precedent because you got to really think through whether or not you're ready to accelerate or not. Because you could say you're going to accelerate, and then if we've opened the door to where you can change your numbers, then I think you have to really think through that whole process. You got to be ready to go.
If you remember when we first started with acceleration, one of the reasons we had to say, if you apply for acceleration, you can't go into the regular timeline, was because we had schools applying for acceleration that were nowhere near ready to start, but they got to get interviewed first. And so people were saying they wanted to be accelerated so that they could find out early whether or not they were going to be approved and they could start moving forward. That usurped the whole plan. And so that was when we said, if you apply accelerated, you cannot delay and you can't go into the regular timeline. And I think that if we say, if you apply accelerated and then and then you can't do the things you said you were going to do, you can then revamp the whole thing again, just encourages people to apply accelerated when they're not ready. So can I get a motion? Is somebody ready to make a motion?
I make a motion to not accept Revitalized's enrollment request.
I'll second.
Being properly moved and seconded, is there any discussion? Ashley, could you please take a roll call?
All right. John Eldridge,
Aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Lynn Kroger,
Aye.
Hilda Parlay,
Approves.
Shelley Bullard,
Aye.
Cheryl Turner,
Aye.
Todd Godby,
Aye.
Eric Sanchez.
Aye.
Okay, so, this didn't pass, so, the school will be back in the next probably month and two to, do the RTO presentation. Thank you. All right,
Okay, don't we have some weighted lotteries or something?
we only have one weighted lottery. We have one more. So this is another RTO school, Oak Hill Charter School, and they are asking for an enrollment change as well, but they are asking for an increase, and they are asking to go from 192 to 216 in the first year, and adding a kindergarten. Let me pull it up on screen just 1 second. So so you can see the change there. It's basically an increase. They're not changing the grade levels, they're just adding an additional kindergarten. It is the only charter school in the county and the only one, the only charter school in the county and the only one within nearly an hour drive of the school's location in Caldwell County. They had their lottery. The school has 82 students total on the wait list. 20 of the 26 accepted kindergarten students are fully enrolled, and then there's 35 more on the wait list. They've adjusted the budget and that one is on eBoard. I think I got the two mixed up. They've included a new core content teacher, wage adjustments for part-time teachers, increases in instructional, and increases in operational. Budget, they already have their CO for their buildings to be used. And I think that's it. They have representatives online, I believe, to answer any questions.
And I want to remind the board that in the last two rounds, we made the decision that we would not approve increases for schools in their RTO, that they could come back after the first year. This, however, the first one we've had where it's the only charter in the area. And I don't know if that's something we want to consider as being different. But I will remind you that we did set a policy that we're not going to approve increases for RTO schools until their first day. So after they open, they could come back for their second year and forward and request. However, no other one that we've done was the only school in the area.
So if I understand their letter correctly and their request, 20 of the 26 accepted kindergarten students are already fully enrolled, and they have 35 students on the wait list for kindergarten. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding, yep.
They've adjusted their budget to add a core content teacher as well as the benefits and increased in operations for meals and accounting, et cetera.
Yep, and they've submitted that. That's on eBoard. They also have submitted to our office. I didn't post it on eBoard, but the CO, so their building is on track.
Is ready? Okay. Mm-hmm.
And this was an accelerated application as well, is that correct?
I don't know.
I don't believe so.
Anthony, was this an accelerated application?
This was an accelerated application, and just to let the board know, that letter that was sent was a month ago.
Right.
The kindergarten is now fully enrolled at 24 and now has, I think the letter said 35. We now have 44 on the kindergarten wait list and over 100 students on the wait. I think after today we'll have 110 students on the wait list.
Cheryl or anybody else on the board, could you give me a reason for why the board decided not to allow enrollment increases in the first year? Because couldn't any school be in this scenario, whether there's another charter school in the area or not? Like if you showed that you have 200 people on your waiting list in the first year, what was the rationale for not allowing that to occur?
Well, the other places were all in places that had a lot of charter schools. And the issue was that we had seen over and over where parents apply at a ton of schools. They applied all of them in an area where there's a lot of schools. And then the kids don't show up because they've been admitted in several different schools. And so while it looks like you have all these kids, we found schools and didn't meet their numbers.
Gotcha.
It's never happened before in an area where there were no other schools. But we made the decision that you go through RTO, we go through this whole process. You've had a long time to build this application and going through RTO that we wanted you to open. If you opened and all your kids showed up and you still had kids on the wait list, you could come back the next year and increase. And so that's what we've done the last 2 years. But like I said, it's never been a school where there weren't other schools there. So I don't know, we don't have that same history of being able to say all these kids aren't real. You know what I mean?
Right, and they seem to have crossed all the Ts and dotted all the Is as I reviewed their submission. It looks like they are ready. They were accelerated and they're ready to go. With more than enough students and with adequate planning, facility. And I just concur with your observation, Madam Chair, that this is unique in that there's not a charter, I believe they said within an hour driving distance, and you have a wait list of this size.
Yeah, I feel like this is probably a more solid indication of students who really and truly will attend than we see in some place like Mecklenburg County, where people are applying at 6 and 7 charters, and then you don't know until the end whether it's going to be yours or one of the others that they actually go to. I guess I just want to be careful that we're very clear that this is different because it's in an area where there aren't other charters, because we have turned down other schools.
It's somewhat unrelated, but is this the school that partnered with Hillsdale College? Do you recall in your characterization?
No.
Okay.
And just to let you know, we are now 86.4% fully enrolled for the entire school as of today.
Okay.
I mean, I feel pretty confident that they're going to make their number. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I just want to make sure that we are clear about what the reasoning is, because I really, in the next round, I don't want somebody to tell us we let them increase their number, but we won't let somebody else increase their number.
So what's that number again, the total number to increase?
216, they want to go from 192, is it 192 to 216, I think?
Yes. Okay. I made a note, just want to make sure.
Would somebody like to make a motion?
Let me ask this right quick. They're not in the EMO school, are they?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, then I move that we approve the Oak Hill enrollment to increase from 192 to 216 its first year.
Can I amend that motion just to add, because they are the only charter school in that county?
All right, that's fine.
That would be good. I second that motion as amended.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ashley, please take a roll call vote.
John Eldridge,
Aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Lynn Kroger,
Aye.
Little Parlay,
Approves.
Shelley Bullard,
Aye.
Cheryl Turner,
Aye.
Todd Godby, Eric Sanchez.
Aye.
All right, passes. Oak Hill, we will take that to state board next month, and we'll keep you posted along the way and just continue with your RTO progress.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the final amendment is Old Mainstream Academy. They are a fairly new school. New school. They're in their first year, K-4. They have more than 200 students, about 200 students enrolled. They are an NC Access grant recipient, and so they are implementing a weighted lottery. Their current EDS numbers are 28.5%, and their goal is 35% by 2023. They have utilized NC Access funds for curriculum, for contracting with UNC Pembroke for new teacher support, and for a school nurse. And they have worked with our office to make sure their policy and everything that we kind of review is in line with best practices.
Any discussion? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Old Mainstream's Academy's weighted lottery request.
Rto Updates seconds.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Ashley, could you take a roll call, please?
Yes, John Eldridge,
Aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Lynn Kroger,
Aye.
Little Parlay,
Aye.
Shelley Bullard,
Aye.
Cheryl Turner,
Aye.
Todd Godby,
Aye.
Eric Sanchez.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Before we move on, I forgot that we needed to get a recommendation from this board to move the annual report to state board. So if we could get a motion for that, that would be wonderful.
I'll make a motion to move the annual report to the state board.
I second the motion.
Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ashley?
John Eldridge,
Aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Lynn Kroger,
Aye.
Hilda Parlay,
Aye.
Shelley Buller,
Aye.
Cheryl Turner,
Aye.
Todd Godby,
Aye.
Eric Sanchez.
Aye.
All right, so, I am going to ask that we amend, the agenda slightly. I will be giving the RTO enrollment and facility update, but we are running a bit behind, and, we have someone in person to start the low performing school updates. So I was hoping we could push the RTO back to after our school presentations, since they have been waiting.
That's fine.
Okay. So our first presentation, we have Dr. Jason Ray, and he is with Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy. So I'm going to pull up his presentation and we can get started.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Jason Ray, as you said, the superintendent of Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy. And today I want to share our school improvement process and how we plan to move down the road at Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy in the next couple of years. So, the school improvement has 12 to 13 indicators that school normally assess for the school year. I came on board in January and I wanted to focus on 4 or 5 indicators that I felt like was going to move the needle and improve us and also bring it to life. I tied these indicators to our everyday process, and also I wanted to bring indicators to life. How do they look actually being done? So the first indicator talks about student, the teachers have effective classroom management, so we do those things as a leadership academy, certain things we go through every day in the classroom. I wanted to see that done throughout the academy and everyday processes. The leadership capacity, the leadership team, the principal, we meet twice a month, school improvement core meeting, and then also with the overall school improvement team. And also the principal monitors curriculum. It all comes with walkthroughs, day-to-day, collecting that data, using that data, and sharing it with the teachers to improve to get better. I wanted those things to be in the forefront of what we do every day. And then the school professional capacity, we regularly look at school and performance data, EVOS data, teacher data, iReady, Apex data, all that data to improve instruction and learning throughout the school. Excuse me, then we talked about families and community support. One of the things I've implemented when I first came on board is a parent contact law. We wanted teachers in the classroom to reach out to parents weekly. So every teacher has a parent contact law where they talk to every student parent on a weekly basis, and that law gets shared. Myself, I created the Parent Advisory Committee to have parents opportunity to speak with me about their concerns and things they wanted to see improve at Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy. And I too have created a parent contact law. Next slide. We have a partnership grant with the Innovative Partnership. I look at these slides and I thought when I was meeting with Dr. Caldwell, why in the world would an educator know about these type of things? When you sit down and think about Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy, the staff has to understand, number one, how the brain works. Because you want kids to be in a happy place. And this took a lot of understanding and conversation for me to really grasp what he was trying to educate me on. Because in the front of the brain, you have what you call oxytocin, which is a good happy place. And then in the back of the brain, you have cortisol. You don't want to be there. And you think about kids at Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy, who parents have brought them there for a couple of reasons. Number one, they misbehaved in school, or they misbehaved at home. So Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy is a place to help instill a little bit more discipline and help correct that. So think about how the brain works is really important for a staff to understand when you're dealing with students of that nature. And then the next thing was the perception control theory. We have references in our mind about how things should be and how they should line up. If they error, then that's when you see kids act out, get in trouble, and not do the right thing, because that error has to come back in balance. Perception control theory is about understanding behavior and why humans do what they do. So at Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy, we wanted to ensure that we understood why people do things the way they do in our meetings, we want to make sure they understand in the classroom and throughout the academy. And then the third thing was the 5 human needs: survival, love, power, fun. Those things are important to kids. And it lists survival as number 1. But I think that love and belonging for our kids at Paul Brown Leadership Academy is probably number 1. Because I probably most of them are probably there. Because they felt a sense of not being alone, not being loved, and they wanted somewhere where people would appreciate them and also show them the love they need. And the last little slide on the corner, far right, is about tying all those things together. We have a covenant that was developed by the staff: honesty, communication, accountability, and respect. Those things the staff said we would do each and every day. You tie those things: our covenant, this is us agreement, how the brain works, perception control theory, and the 5 human needs, and we're on our way to aligning what we need to do with our kids in order to be successful. Every morning, I send the staff an email, and it simply says, "This is us," and it lists honesty, communication, accountability, and respect. And it's all it says. It's done every morning because I want to remind them that we hold ourselves accountable for doing these things for our kids. So the question of the day, when I talk to cadets in the mess hall, I like to ask them questions of, why are you here? Why are you at Paul Brown Leadership Academy? Because our cadets come from 5 different counties, and they travel a long way, some of them an hour and a half, to come to Paul Brown Leadership Academy. So the question is, why are you here? After talking to the cadets, I go in eBox, I look at their data, and I would like to say that these are the only 4 data that looks like this, but unfortunately, 85% of our cadets' data look this way. So the red is the student, and you can see on the left, that student was in the top 90 percentile in the state at some point. So only 10% of the students in the state performed better than that student on an assessment, a statewide assessment. But somehow, something happened in that student's life. And anyone who's been in education knows these graphs tell a story. When that graph goes from the top and it started to fall down, and there's something happened in that student's life that caused him to fall, or her to fall to that low level. So the first student was in the top, and he went all the way down to almost the 10th percentile of the state. The next student with him, not as high, but the same situation. They're one of the top students in the state, and they slowly went down, went down, went down. So I like to ask the student, why are you here? What did you do to make your parent send you to Paul Brown Leadership Academy? Because at this point, we didn't recruit you. Your parent found us, which tells another story. So if you look at the student on the bottom left, that student took one of the steepest dives from the top and then stayed at the bottom. That data tells us a story about the student. I saved the one on the bottom right for last because that student was in the top 99 percentile in the state. And it made a drop. What I wanted to share with the staff and the teachers was, our students are very capable. Academically, they're very capable. At some point, they lost the motivation for education. Something happened that caused them to no longer care about their education, and we have to find it. So what we did first was we had a certified mental health person come in and give our staff an 8-hour course on mental health first aid, so we can understand how to help our students. Think about this. If a student was in the top 99 percentile and now they're struggling, the brain doesn't work like that. You don't fall from 99 percentile to the 2 percentile. If their intelligence is there, it's always going to be there. We got to figure out how to put about, how to make sure they're motivated again to be educated. It's a tough task. Easier said than done, and we understand that. We're also bringing in health workers to talk to our students, to get them motivated, to talk to individual students in groups, to find out how can we get you back on track, because that slide tells a very powerful story about education. And I say again, anyone who's been in education knows that this can be corrected. There has to be a sense of loving and belonging. Yes, ma'am.
I don't interrupt your flow, but what period of time does this graph cover?
This goes from 2017 up into the pandemic.
So 217 to 220
Yes,
is
ma'am.
when this occurred? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
2020, sorry. Thank you, sorry for the interruption.
And that's a good point, because one of the questions was, I asked them, I looked at it because I want to ensure this wasn't during the pandemic, because a lot of kids failed during the pandemic. But even so, you don't normally see kids fall from 99 percentile to where these kids have failed, you know, in those type of circumstances. Next slide. So the question is, how do we know what we're trying to do works? Well, in my previous school, I've been a principal there for 7 years, and we use a process called the 11 high probability instructional strategies. And what it simply says is, clear learning targets are posted in student-friendly terms every day. They're repeated 3 to 4 times every class period. Those academic terms are unpacked, so students can know what academic terms and those lessons mean. You can't assume that because you wrote it on the board, a student is gonna read it. And as educators, we assume, because we wrote it on the board, that a student is gonna read it. So we ask the student 2 questions. What skill are you learning, and why are you learning it? If a student can answer those 2 questions, they understand the destination for their learning. And it goes day by day. If the teacher builds on those lessons day by day, then eventually they will get to the point where students will start being successful. But you want students to own their learning. At Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy, if anyone comes to the classroom, those teachers are repeat the clear learning target. Even if they just did it, they ought to say it again so that the person that comes in the classroom understands that this is what we do every day across the academy. Every day. To the right is my data from my previous school, and that is the performance data. By using the high probability instructional strategies, we was able to not only increase, but to sustain it. So every year you increase 2 points, 2 points, 4 points. And as you can see, it was a low performance school when I took over the high school. And 4 years later, it was on 3 points for being a B school because the process works. And then on the bottom left, it's the same for the growth. You gotta maintain it, you gotta be consistent, and what we call aggressive monitoring. How many classrooms each and every day? So I provide 5-minute feedback, 30-second feedback to all the teachers so they understand this is what I want to see, this is what we need to be doing. And then the graph on the right is the entire school district, my previous district. And my previous school is in the middle, and even though some schools were hired from years of different years, we're the only school that increased consistently every year because what we did was sustainable, is able to be maintained, and able to be successful. So this is the data I share with the staff because when you're a low performance school, you are what the data says you are, and you have to accept that. Once you do that, we can move forward. But you have to accept what the data says you are, and you have to be willing to do those things that it takes to increase and get better. Pin your question for your own slide. So we start with the beginning and the end. So this is our mission, what we want to do for our cadets. That's our vision. And again, this is us: honesty, communication, accountability, and respect. Thank pinning your question. That's my last slide.
What is the ratio of male to female?
Ratio of male to female, probably 2 to 1 male. You find a decent academy, there's probably more males. As you can imagine, there are more males than females, but more females are probably in leadership positions, though. That's just the way it works.
Is this your 3rd year?
This is my 1st year. I started in January.
First year, you started in January. Okay. And what is the enrollment, Dr. Ray?
Well, 116.
116, okay.
And I will share that we use Iredell for our middle school students. Iredell recommends 15 minutes a week. We do 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes of class, and we do 1 hour mandatory after school. So we've seen kids grow from kindergarten level to 3rd grade level in a matter of months because of the time we spend using our Iredell program.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
All right, the next school is Davidson Charter Academy.
Good morning. My name is Lori James. I'm the director of Davidson Charter Academy. Also on this call is Jennifer Fleury. She is the director of business operations. Davidson Charter Academy has a very unique administrative structure. We have 2 lead directors that manage all aspects of the school, and we found it to be very successful. So Davidson Charter Academy is located in Lexington, and we are in our 4th year of operations. We like to start every meeting with reading the mission, so that's what I'm going to do. Davidson Charter Academy, in partnership with parents and community members, will foster students' learning and achievement and inspire students to become independent thinkers, effective communicators, and contributing citizens of a global society. Next slide, please. Okay, so we analyzed our academic data, and this is according to our 2021 Eog Scores. Our students in grades 3 through 6 scored an average of 45.8% proficiency in reading and 41.4% proficiency in math. Our 5th graders scored 51% proficiency in science. And although we strive to increase this proficiency, we are very pleased with our students' performance, that they were able to maintain their skills even with all the interruptions of the pandemic. Our first year in operations, and what this score is based upon was 2018, and that was the last time our students tested. So we are pretty pleased that they stayed pretty consistent. And then according to our EVOS data, students in grades 3-5 all met expected growth, and our 6th graders exceeded growth during the 2021 school year on their EOGs, and that was exciting to see as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so DCA, we use the NWA Map Assessment for our benchmark data. This is an adaptive test that measures students' growth over time. And so we compared last year's data to this year's data. And at the time, we didn't have the spring data, so we're comparing middle of the year. And these are the following trends that we've noticed. So in kindergarten, we observed a 16% increase in proficiency. We believe this is a direct result of our new phonics curriculum that we have implemented this year. This program supports students in developing skills in phonemic awareness, phonics, high frequency words, and spelling. We observed a 24% decrease in the proficiency in 1st grade. And after analyzing this data further, this drop was due to the K-1 transitional class that we've created for this school year. Instead of retaining students last year who were performing below grade level, we created this class to be able to teach them at a slower pace and address students' individual needs. And according to our most recent end-of-year testing, our spring results, our 1st graders increased their proficiency from 36% to 41%. So it is working. We also observed a 17% decrease in proficiency in 4th grade for the MOI. Since that time, since middle of the year, we've been providing our 4th graders with the direct reading intervention, and it's a highly explicit multisensory decoding and spelling program that is specifically designed for those older students. And according to our end of year testing, our most recent testing, our 4th graders increased their proficiency from 62% middle of the year to 72%. And the remaining grade levels perform consistent with their last year middle of the year scores for reading. As for math, our 1st graders experienced the same decrease in math, and again, that's due to that transitional class. Other than that, all of our lower elementary classes have increased their math proficiency. We are noticing that our upper elementary grades all decreased. Our teachers are really struggling with continuing on with the math instruction with all of the students' gaps in their learning. So we've identified the need to adopt a math curriculum intervention program to support those students moving forward.
Can I ask a question real quick before you go to the next slide?
Absolutely.
So wouldn't last year's kindergartners that were at 39% be this year's 1st graders that are at 36%?
Yes.
So when you look at the decreases, when you put the 1st grade dropped 24 points, they really dropped 3.
Absolutely.
Right? So I mean, I just want to make sure I'm not reading your
Yep.
data incorrectly,
So
because making sure you're seeing where you really dropped and where you actually went up.
Yes, absolutely. We do compare grade levels from year to year, but then we also do take in consideration that these kindergartners that moved up are the current first graders. So yes, we do acknowledge that as well.
I have a question along the same lines of that data. If you had a transition class of K-1 that was focused on personalized learning and intervention, but their percentages dropped, did you consider that an effective intervention, or will it show up later? It appears that you're not seeing the results of your intervention.
So the intervention class that we've created, we had many of our kindergartners not show up for kindergarten, and some came on and off with the pandemic. And so we created a first grade classroom that we put an assistant teacher in, and they were able to teach the kindergarten skills as well as the first grade skills. So we have last year's first grade class, they were strong, and we're comparing them to this year's first grade class, which were last year's kindergarten class, which have decreased a bit. But yes, so I don't know if the data is properly showing it, but living it day to day, this class has been successful, and we're not retaining any of those students in that class this school year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so our current academic goals, we have 3 goals. Of course, we have a core academic goal, which is based around our instruction. We have a family engagement goal and a social emotional goal. So for our core academic goal, Davidson Charter Academy will enhance our students' educational experience and strengthen our academic instruction in order to fill gaps in learning and increase overall academic proficiency. And we are striving to increase our overall student proficiency in math and reading by 50% over our baseline. In order to do this, the following strategies have been put into place. Our educational leadership team has clearly defined our instructional framework and provides a firm foundation for classroom instruction. We use our state-approved alternative teacher evaluation tool to monitor classroom instruction and create data-informed decisions. We've provided additional support to our teachers by strengthening our beginning teacher program and our professional learning teams. And we've enhanced our students' educational experience by incorporating innovative ways, to teach content. And this includes hands-on inquiry learning as well as field trip and providing them with real-life experiences. For our social emotional goal, Davidson Charter Academy will focus on the whole child by addressing the social, emotional, character, and mindset initiatives when it comes to students' growth and learning. We've identified the need to support our students emotionally as well as socially, especially after the pandemic. We have adopted the responsive classroom approach to teaching. All of our teachers have been trained in this, and it's an evidence-based approach to teaching and discipline that focuses on engaging academics, positive community building, effective management, and developmental awareness. Our staff is fully trained, and they use these techniques to create a safe and joyful classroom environment where all students develop strong social and emotional skills. In addition to this, we have developed our guidance department. We were so lucky to have hired 2 guidance counselors, an upper school and a lower school guidance counselors, and they get into the classrooms once a week and they teach social emotional classes to all of the students throughout all grade levels. They also meet with groups and individual students to support their needs as well. And then our family engagement goal. Davidson Charter Academy will increase family engagement by holding community events and educational sessions. Our goal is to reconnect with our families so they become more invested in their child's education. We are really excited to invite our families back into the school. Due to the pandemic and all of the restrictions, we lost our PTO. It just faded, and so we're working on reestablishing that. We've held a few community events this year, and our most successful event was our Fall Festival. And we had over 700 people attend in the fall, and many of our current families, but there were a lot of new families that were just learning to find more about our school. So that was very successful. Okay, so challenges for DCA and then areas of opportunity. Obviously, the one that we are all experiencing is the learning loss due to COVID and the negative impacts on all academic areas across all grade levels. Students are lacking basic functional skills they require to access education, and we are noticing developmental delays in lower elementary. To help with this, we have adopted two new reading curriculums to support the instruction. For K3, we are now using Foundations, and for 4 and higher, we are using Just Words. They're both Wilson programs. We are also using the guided reading series. We have been able to hire a reading interventionist to support our teachers and our students, and we are developing further and implementing our MTSS framework. Our social, emotional, and student behavior concerns, the negative impacts of the pandemic on mental health, increase of inappropriate behaviors displayed by students, and lack of social skills and social understanding. We basically had to teach our students how to be students again. And again, like I mentioned previously, we hired 2 guidance counselors to support them, and we are using our social emotional learning curriculum in our SEL classes. We have Second Step, and we're using zones of regulation. And to engage our students, we noticed students were not taking school seriously. They were frequently absent or tardy, and just their work ethic. It was just a poor work ethic. So we are inspiring our teachers to find innovative ways and approaches to enhance their educational instruction, and where students engage in hands-on learning and attend field trips. And that leads us to our celebrations at DCA. We have so much going on, and we are so proud of it. First and foremost, the culture that we've created at our school, it's one of respect and care and love. Our students treat each other like that, and our teachers, we hold them accountable for the same standards. Again, the responsive classroom training is a huge success. Our trainer completed her final evaluation of the responsive classroom implementation, and she reported that we are successfully implementing it throughout the school setting. So we're very proud of that. Our field trips, we recognize that field trips are important moments in learning, and we integrate field trips into all instruction, and students in every grade level will attend a field trip during the school year. DCA was fortunate enough to be awarded a grant from Challenge Foundation Properties, which allowed us to pay for all the fees for all the field trips. So our students, our community didn't have to pay for anything. And then we're very proud of our middle school. It's hard. We started K4, and now we're K7. Next year we'll be up to K8. But we are developing our middle school, which we're very proud of. We are offering enrichment courses such as agriculture, performing arts, musical composition, family and consumer science. Currently, DCA is the only middle school that in Davidson County that offers agriculture education classes to grades 6 through 8. And we're very excited because we are officially chartering our very own Future Farmers of America chapter. So that's exciting. And then we had students just participate in all county chorus. That was elementary and middle school students. We had students participate in the Carolina Panthers regional spelling bee. And overall, we are just very happy to be able to engage our community in all of the events that we offer.
I'll just say congratulations on that Challenge Foundation grant, because that's awesome for all of your families to benefit from that.
Thank you. Thank you.
As well as all of your hard work, not to overlook that. You've got your work cut out for you, and you sound like you're on top of it.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Ms. James.
Okay.
We are going to move on to Marjorie Williams Academy. Dr. Austin, are you available?
Yes, I am.
All right. Just let me know when you, I'll try to do the slides for you.
Okay, all right, very good. My name is Dr. Cindy Austin, and I am privileged to be the principal of Marjorie Williams Academy. Our mission is to offer a stable, emotional, supportive educational environment for children with a goal of empowering each child to achieve his or her real academic and social potential. And in order to kind of understand that mission a little bit more, I need to give you a school profile on who we are and who we serve. We are on the campus of the Crossnor Communities for Children here in Crossnor. It is a group home for abused, abandoned, and or neglected children. We are K-12. We are one of the 100 original charters in North Carolina. Our ADM this year is 80 to 100 students. Our ADM fluctuates due to the transient nature of our population. They're in DSS custody, so it depends on court orders, reunification, kinship placement, adoptions, foster placements. We began the year around 80 students. We will probably have served, we're up around 120 throughout the year. We have seen a decrease in the ADM. This year we were in somewhere around 100 to 150 students, but now we are to 80 to 100. And this probably for two reasons. One, school closures. The remote learning brought a decrease in DSS referrals for truancy, neglect, and abuse. And as I'm sure everybody knows, schools are one of the top refers to DSS for truancy and abuse. But it's the signs of abuse were easily hidden behind remote learning. But as the schools have come face-to-face and opening back up, those numbers are increasing as they are reporting for DSS custody. The other challenge that we have is the Family First Act. This is foster care placement over residential care, but we are seeing an increase in large sibling groups. For instance, last week we had a sibling group of 7 that came in, and that's probably due to the fact that it's harder to place full sibling groups, large sibling groups in the foster care system. So what we see a lot of times is the sibling group will come in, and then in a couple of weeks, maybe a kinship placement will take a couple of them. Some will go into foster care, and they end up dividing up the sibling group. But then some stay with us. I think there's another sibling group, I've been told, from the Home for Children, a group of 4 has just come in. So we will see them, but we also will then, we're going to be losing a student on Thursday who is being adopted out. So it's bittersweet, but that's how our numbers fluctuate throughout the day, on the daily, as far as the comings and the going. We are students, 98% of our students are academically disadvantaged, and we are a Title I school. The breakdown of our community students and our residential students is about 80 to 20%. 80% of the home children make up the 100 to 120 students that we have, and then we have 20% of our population comes from the local county, Avery County, and we have a couple that come from Mitchell County. The feeder counties that come in, there's about 9 that come in from the residential as far as students in DSS custody. The 2019 to 2021 comparison, on the next slide, thank you. We're looking at, we believe that we are improving in our academic growth based on the data and in our academic achievement percentile. We credit that to face-to-face instruction. Other than the March to June closure, we opened up our school when we were face-to-face. And we did that by removing all unnecessary furniture. We had student desks and the teachers had a podium. We got rid of all the big bulky unnecessary furniture. We repurposed rooms and created virtual classrooms where students remoted, but they remoted from within the school so the kids could come to school. So for an example, we used our gym, we used our theater, we used an all-purpose room that we have, we used the cafeteria, and we had an A-day, B-day situation. The A-day, you would be in the class with the teacher, and then the B-day folks would be in the gym remoting in to the classroom. So they still had access to the teacher, but and they were within the school, but they were not within the classroom. If we had large cohort groups, like our 9th graders that were large, we moved them into an all-purpose room, and the teacher came to them so that we could space them, meet the guidelines, but they could still be here on campus. The other things we did, traffic patterns, new traffic patterns were developed. Students ate lunch outside, weather permitting. We had the lunches, bag lunches come in from the dining hall. They could eat in the classroom, kind of watch a little movie, have a dinner and a movie, so that they didn't feel so isolated by staying in the room the whole time. We've maintained awards and recognition programs. We just held them within teams in the classroom, so the students could certainly feel that recognition and still be a part as much as normal as you could. So it was a different way of doing things, but we maintained what school is all about: safety and instruction, and recognizing students for hard work. Next slide, please. So we're looking at our, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, I thought somebody had a question. So in looking at our data trends and goals, it does appear based on our check-in scores that the ELA and math are on track to exceed growth and reach 60% about proficiency. We have implemented new curriculum school-wide. The teachers have been supplemented through ESSER funds for $500 for resources in their room to where they thought what would work to help close that achievement gap. We have in-school math and ELA tutors that come in, and we have enhanced our EC program and our occupational courses study program. Those students run a coffee shop and have a snack bar and do cleaning and things that are associated with their occupational courses study. And we have daily intervention and enrichment groups, which is school-wide. High school teachers are giving up their planning period to come and read with the elementary or do math problems. Our math teacher is part of the math enrichment groups. So it is a school-wide program that we're working on. We do have some challenges. We are monitoring the 6th and 8th grade, as you can see those up in red. 6th and 8th grade math, 5th, 7th, and 9th grade ELA. But what we're having to do is look at it to see if it's classroom instruction or is it the transient population. For instance, if you look at our 3rd graders, the number of students that took the first check-in was 5. The number of students that took it, the second check-in, was 7. Was that an increase by 2 that we had come in, or was it an increase by 4? Because sometimes we lose students. We might have lost 4, gained 3 in between those check-ins, and we try to do the check-ins every 6 weeks. Same thing, there's a number increase when you're looking at the ELA for the 4th. 8th grade, the number stayed the same, but we don't know that that was the same 9 students that were taking it in the first check-in and in their second check-in. It's not likely that it is. So what we then need to do is we move on. If you'll move on to the next slide, we have a data wall, and this is in our PLC room. And so what we do is we put the student, when they come in, we give them an assessment, and their name is in red, yellow, or green based on their assessment, and then we move them up and down the wall based on their check-ins. So if we go in and we see that there's not an arrow or some type of indication, we know that that student just came in. So maybe they have not, they were not in the first set of check-ins, but they were in the second set. So this kind of gives the teachers a color-coded view on are the greens going down, are the reds going up, and we have meetings every Monday, team-level meetings, and they meet in the PLC room so they can view what's been happening with any type of progress monitoring or any type of benchmark data. We also have data days in which grade levels are subject specific, discuss the data that is displayed on the wall. So that's how we're checking our individual progress. And then moving to the emotional part in teaching the whole child, we are a trauma-informed behavior modified model school. It's our approach to education. We are guided by the notion that trauma is not an excuse, but it is an explanation for the behavior. And until you get to the root, you're not going to see the academic fruit of that, of what's happening in the classroom. Children who are the most disruptive in the classroom are those who have been exposed to abuse, neglect, and violence in the home. And a lot of school disciplinary policies exacerbate that behavior, and it elevates the misconduct of the child. It creates a behavior cycle that a student nor a teacher knows how to end unless you approach it from a trauma-informed lens. Williams Academy recognizes that the circumstances of all students, not just the ones that are here, are not publicly known or shared with school employees. So we're guided by the idea that we make no assumptions. We treat all students as if they have been subjected to abuse, neglect, or violence in the home. We also work with the teachers, the faculty, and staff on how to recognize their own trauma, because they bring that to the situation as well. There is some concepts called collective disturbance, parallel process, and reenactment that can take place, that teachers unknowingly will bring that to the situation, and it's an opportunity for them to learn how to step back, looking at their own trauma and meeting the student where they are and seeing how to go forward with the education. We have quarterly training in both the sanctuary model of care and the teaching with love and logic. I am a certified trainer in both of the models. And basically what those are, the sanctuary model of care is kind of a whole brain-based approach on what's happening with the child's behavior. And then teaching with love and logic is a practical application that you can use in the classroom on how to deal with the student and their behavior. We want to balance the nurture, compassion, and care with an emphasis on self-discipline, personal accountability, and social responsibility. Strategies on how to handle student classroom disruption without engaging in power struggles and elevating the student's misconduct. Basically, you approach with empathy, you build relationships with students, and the question overall is not what is wrong with you, it's what has happened to you. And with that, then you can get to the root of the problem and hopefully see the academic fruit, which I think we are in the process of seeing that now. So quite literally, it's a whole child approach at Williams Academy.
This is John Eldridge. Dr. Austin, thank you for your work.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
Given where we are right now in this world, if there was ever a need for focusing on social and emotional well-being of our students and our staff members, this is it. And I really enjoyed listening to your presentation, and I know good things are happening there. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Austin.
Thank you.
All right, our next school is Iredell Charter Academy with Ms. Lopresti.
Yes, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Please excuse my voice. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I'm Dr. Lopresti, the founding principal of Iredell Charter Academy. I'm very proud of my school and all of our students and staff at Iredell. One of the things that we always stress is culture and how important it is to be a loving and kind environment for our students. As the previous principals have stated, our students and our staff members go through trying times and have a lot of trauma in their family situations. So for us to be that caring, supportive school, it's of the utmost importance. So you can move to the next slide. Our mission, the mission of Iredell Charter Academy, is to build a rigorous and productive learning environment where students can reach their academic potential, where teachers and students set clear educational goals. And throughout this presentation, I hope you see the clarity in the work that we're doing here at Iredell Charter Academy. And I know our scores are showing the results of that clear work. Our next slide, please. So these are our 5 goals for this year: core academics, social emotional, equity work, family connection, and arts and science. As far as the core academics, we are filling in the learning loss that has occurred because of the pandemic. And to do that, every Tuesday, our teachers meet in our PLC room. We also have a data room where they look at the priority standards. First, they break it down into quarterly priority standards. They list those out so it's very clear for each teacher, and then they plan together based on those standards. Then each week when they come in, they put the data that aligns with that standard. And what we did differently this year is that we've always listed all of our students based for each grade level, and then looked at how they have mastered that priority standard, but further looked into what supports are they receiving. Are they an EL student, EC? Are they an MTSS? Are they part of tutoring? And then what we did differently this year is we wanted to see if they even have an adult in the building that they feel comfortable with, or an adult feels comfortable and close with them. So we asked our teachers and staff to go around and put a check mark to the students that they have a frequent interaction with daily, and so that we could really hone in to see what students are sort of not getting that extra support. And that was eye-opening for us, but also a way for us to move forward. In addition, as I stated, we have tutoring. We have ensured that our MTSS, EL, and EC supports are in place and are at a rigorous level. We looked at our subgroups, and then we incorporate Panther Pals with our lower grade students. Our K2, we've noticed that the foundational learning, there are huge gaps in that area. So we have a K2 think tank where the teachers come together and they're sort of planning cross grade level and not looking at the age, but the stage of where each student is. And then the Panther Pals are assigned to the grade levels. And those are our middle school students that come daily to the classroom and we'll work with small group. It's quite a beautiful sight. If you've ever on my campus, you'll see that every morning, and it's beautiful. And we train our Panther Pals with our curriculum resource teachers so they know exactly what they need to do. Our CRTs also look at the EBOS, all of our data. We have data chats with our students. So as you moving into that, we look at our MTSS data. We look at NWEA, iReady. This is our EOG scores. And we're very proud of this because this was the first year where we met and exceeded in all areas. We were doing really well before the pandemic hit, and we were really so excited. And then the pandemic hit, and we were disappointed we did not take the testing in year 4. However, year 5, this is our scores. Our proficiency is still quite low, and so we're working to ensure that the proficiency grows, but at least we're meeting the needs of each child where they are and exceeding that. Our recent NC check-in data is also showing an increase. So I looked at NC check-in 1 all the way to our most recent from last week, NC check-in 3, and all of the areas except 5th grade math and 7th grade math have increased. And I do understand that it's a slice of the core, but all of them have increased from the fall to now. So we're proud of our students. One of the things I attribute to the scores and the continued learning is our teachers showed up for our students, and we opened fully in October of last year, and I did not have a problem of bringing teachers back into the building. They were concerned about our students' mental well-being, their physical well-being, and they wanted to be on campus. And I think it goes back to that culture that we know we're here for our students, and I'm ultimately here for our teachers and staff to ensure that they too are feeling safe and secure in the learning environment. So we put a lot of structures in place so that everyone had that safety piece, but the majority of our students returned, and all of our teachers returned as well. So I was very proud, and we had the motto that we're going to learn despite the craziness around us. And I think that allowed us to stay focused to our goals. Currently, we're working on a lot of celebrations. I told the teachers that we have 28 days before testing and 38 days before the end of the school year. So we are focusing on our goals, and we're ensuring that we're celebrating each step that along the way. We know that there's a continuum of energy and focus, and right now even despite the end of the year, we have high energy and high focus throughout our school. If you want to go then, actually, if you want to go back, I didn't really talk about the other goals. As far as social emotional, we use a program called AIA. It's Attitude is Altitude. We have a social worker that goes into each grade level 1 time a week and teaches lessons based on AIA. We connect with a lot of the community agencies, and as stated earlier, DSS, we've already made 30 calls this year, so we do have to really reach out to those agencies that ultimately help our families. And as far as the equity work, over the past 3 years, I'm part of a group of other principals within my network who we have branched out to all the principals in my network as our state and national level where we're doing work based on equity. We are just tapping the surface, and there's so much more work to be done. However, I am proud that in each of our principal meeting, we do talk about equity work. It is sometimes uncomfortable. However, that is our responsibility to ensure that all students and staff feel comfortable and safe on our school campuses. So I, again, am part of that work, and we're just starting to sort of tap into the meat of the work, but it is across all of our networks of schools. As far as family connection, one of the things that we had to work really hard on was attendance, and my 12-month admin and myself, we worked hard sending the letters, making phone calls, ensuring that people didn't use the pandemic as an excuse to not be in school, because we still needed students to show up every day and to be accountable for their learning. So we worked really hard, and we continue to work hard on the attendance piece as well. Also, finding ways for families to connect. Once we were able to open our doors, our families are now attending our school-wide events, our celebrations, and our art functions. And then the last piece, arts and science. This is a new piece for us. One thing we realized within our profile is that our art program and our sciences have really bubbled up, and over the past 6 years have been very strong. So we just created a Arts and Science Council here at the school, and the goal is to provide more opportunities for our students for starting next year, and ultimately maybe making a shift in our schedule to allow for a second middle school art or science elective for students that qualify. But the goal really is to provide more opportunities, let it be through field trip, science classes, or community partnerships. And so that just started, and we're really proud of that work that is beginning. If you want to go to the challenges. So again, the K2 think tank is one way we're addressing that foundational learning that we see here through our data. There are lots of gaps, but we're closing those gaps. Our PLCs are really looking at the standards and ensuring that we are targeting what needs to be done. So for example, a second grade student may be working on a first grade standard that they really missed throughout the past couple of years. Ready Classroom is a new curriculum piece that we added. We have been using iReady over the past couple of years. Ready Classroom we implemented for our math program 3 through 8, and we are seeing a lot of success using that program. So we'll see how that bears out in our next Eog scores. And then I was, myself and my CRT, we completed the Rethink Professional Development, and I think it was a phenomenal opportunity to learn more ways to reach students, because our teachers really learned a lot once we were virtual for those few months initially, in the few months of last year. And so we want to continue using those strategies and learn more strategies to really tap into how our students learn best. And then the community, social emotional, again, the partnership. We do want to hire a guidance counselor for next year, so that's something that we're working on. We did implement an AB therapist this year as well. And then enrollment is another challenge and area of growth. Currently we're at 611. We do want to sort of continue growing. We do have a new local community. However, our middle school, it's that 5th grade going into middle school, because we are a K-8, there is always that concern of where do we go for high school? Even though we do help transition our families into the various high schools around us, we want to make sure that our 5th grade families continue with us for middle school. So we're working really hard with our families. We have a house system here at the school for middle school. We've included our 5th graders into that house system. Our middle school teachers we had a middle school night where our 5th grade families attended. So those are the areas where we need to continue to grow. And then our last slide, we're really proud of all of the activities that continue throughout the year, and our athletic program is very robust, and they've continued this year. We do want to add fishing, and we have golf and volleyball, basketball, soccer, cheerleading. We have our Beauty and the Beast play that's going to showcase in a couple weeks. Last year we had Willy Wonka. Field trips, we were able to have our first international field trip. A small group of us went to Ireland and England, so we were proud of that. We have our spelling bee, Panther of the Month. And then one new piece that we're also incorporating for this year and moving forward for next year is an outdoor learning space. Unfortunately, one of our teachers did pass away in December, and our community is still mourning. We're creating this outdoor learning space in her memory. And so we already have one phase already completed. And so now we're going into phase 2, where we can level the concrete and implement the raised gardens for our students to use. And like I said, we have the house system assemblies that meet once a month, our National Junior Honor Society, and yes, and all of our field trips that every grade level participated in this year. Does anybody have any questions?
Is it Dr. Lepreski?
Yes.
Okay. I noted that your website says you have enrollment that represents 20 different countries. Is that still the case? And I wondered what you attribute that to. To what do you attribute that?
A lot of it, the growing EL at that time when we did that. So thank you for noting that. That was on our profile. I will have to look to see what the most current demographic is, but our EL population grew from year 3 to 4 and even today. So currently our EL population, I think was at 15% is what I noted, or 7%. However, that I attribute to the 20 different countries.
Is your current enrollment at about 650?
No, we're at 611.
611. I noted one of your goals is to be fully enrolled. What number would be fully enrolled?
Fully enrolled would be our charter. However, they're looking at it because based on our numbers, and that was 1156. So we still have work to be done for that.
Okay, thank you for that report.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our last school today is Children's Village Academy, and I believe Miss Jessica Jones is on the line.
Yes, ma'am, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm Jessica Jones, principal at Children's Village Academy. And actually being joined by one of my board members, Dr. Trumfield, today. Just a little bit about CVA. This year actually marks the school's 25th year anniversary, in which we celebrate 25 years of excellence, growth, and resilience.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Your volume's coming in and out. I just want to let you know so we can all hear you.
Okay. How is it now?
It's good.
It's better.
It's better.
It's better now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So as I was saying, we're actually in our 25th year anniversary, in which we celebrate 25 years of excellence, growth, and resilience. Our mission is to be a model institution for the outstanding academics. Can you guys hear me?
No.
In and out.
Oh boy. Okay. What about now?
Sounds good.
Yes.
Sounds good?
Yes.
All right, so our mission is to be a model learning institution. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, for outstanding academic performance, ensuring that when students leave CVA, they are known for their well-grounded cultural well-being, upstanding moral fiber, citizenry, and passion for learning. Y'all with me so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So CVA was established in 1997 and was the first and now only charter school in Kinston, North Carolina. CVA serves grades K-8 with partnership with the local daycare Wonderland Pre-K. We have one class per grade with an average of 20 students. The demographics this year consist of an EDS population of about 75%. And in past years, CVA has demonstrated high growth while serving one of the highest EDS populations in the county. During its inception, CVA has been recognized throughout its time for academic growth, and which includes School of Progress, School of Distinction, academic growth awards, and top 25% and 50% of schools making high growth. We are striving to consistently increase growth, which we believe will increase proficiency. Our primary school-wide goals for the 21-22 school year are one, that at least 50% of our students in grades K through 8 will achieve grade level proficiency in reading, math, and science on the end of year assessments. Also, that at least 55% will meet or exceed growth on end of year assessments. By the end of the year, And lastly, to maintain a daily attendance rate of at least 90% for the current academic school year. Next slide. So this slide here shows a comparison of EOG data from 2019 and 2021 post-pandemic. Some of the key data points from 2019 to 2021, for particularly in reading, there were increases in grades 3 and 6 proficiency, and decreases in grades 5, 7, and 8. As far as math, there were decreases in grades 3 through 5, and there were gains in the middle grades math, with the highest gains being seen in grade 6. Math continues to be one of our most critical areas of concern. Science, grade 8, continues to maintain high proficiency with 80% or more students passing. There was a decline in grade 5 science, which remains significantly lower than grade 8. Some of our challenges that we noted was our high percentage of new enrollees to the school coming in below grade level. As mentioned last year in 2021, 60% of newly enrolled students, first-time students at CBA, were at least one grade level behind. In this current school year, of new students enrolled, about 87% of them were at least 1 to 2 grade levels behind. Another challenge is recruitment and retention of highly qualified educators, which honestly has improved. We were able to secure the hire of some really good, effective teachers at the elementary level. But it still remains a challenge in critical testing grades, mainly middle school math. Also, another challenge would be continued impact of COVID-19 for the beginning of the school year mainly. One of those challenges associated with identifying and addressing learning gaps on top of previous existing learning gaps to remediate and increase proficiency at the same time. The absenteeisms due to quarantine cases at the beginning of the year, about 30% of absenteeism was due to the quarantine scenario. And although we had offered and provided remote learning, we still had students who were not logging in consistently from home. Our board also wanted to note that last year, about 25% of kindergarten students had to be retained due to chronic absenteeism. Another challenge we noticed coming in to face-to-face learning was the increased need for social-emotional learning and mental health for both students and staff as they made adjustments back to face-to-face learning. Lastly is the parental involvement and engagement. Despite ongoing efforts to foster engagement, particularly from those students who are most at risk for academic failure, still continue to be a challenge. But as I move through this presentation, we'll show some of the things we've tried to implement and practices to work through those challenges. The next slide, slide 3, looks at our performance growth-wise. Again, comparing the 2019 school year to last year, 2021. And in 2019, EBOS data showed a deficit across the board in math, which prompted an extensive focus on math instruction and intervention. By the end of the 2021 school year, students in grades 5 through 8 had exceeded expected growth in math while meeting growth in reading. Considering all that, schools had to endure during the pandemic, this was encouraging for us. In science, 8th grade exceeded expected growth, while grade 5 is still, again, an area of concern. It is being addressed in daily and after-school interventions. While CBA maintained growth, and we recognize that, we did also recognize the signs of regression in grades 5, 7, and 8. So therefore, high instructional and remedial emphasis was placed on tier-level vocabulary and informational text, which are the weakest areas of performance amongst our students based on the assessment data. Next slide. So this slide is representing our academic trends for the current year. The table on the left represents our iReady students meeting typical growth on iReady from the first diagnostic to the third. And what we have is that our students K through 8 meet the number of students or percentage of students meeting their typical growth goals increased from 25% to 55% by the third diagnostic. And in math, it had increased from 26% to 58% in math growth. The right table shows our NC check-in data. And what we have there is from grades 3 through 8, achieved proficiency gains from the first and second benchmark with projected proficiency going from an average of 49% to 63% in reading and 17% to 39% in math and 53% to 62% in science. Our highest priorities for intensive remediation and focus remains with grades 3, reading and math, middle school math, and grade 5 science. At the time of putting this presentation together, we were actually taking our third check-in benchmarks and received our last final numbers like Friday. But what I was able to gather today from the testing coordinator is from the second benchmark to the third benchmark in reading, they went from 63% to 69% projected proficiency. The math stayed the same at 39%. And science went from 62% from the second check-in to 78% in the third check-in. So at this point, we're really just getting the data together and making plans and actionable steps towards, first of all, getting the math up to par and making sure reading and science, we stay on the trajectory that we are currently seeing. Next slide. So this is a summary of strategies for school improvement to work through those challenges. We've continued the use of a lot of these strategies, mainly strategies used to improve math performance, which include intensive target focus on math remediation, analyzing the data, remediating target groups, consistently tracking classroom and benchmark assessment data, and continuing the school-wide implementation of the CUBE strategy, which is a step-by-step strategy to help students decode and analyze the word problems. In reading, we have, working on the reading and making sure we stay on top of the reading, CBA has enhanced its focus on tiered level vocabulary and informational text. Other ongoing practices include extensive support in math and reading provided during after school and monthly Saturday Academy sessions, ongoing staff development in effective math and reading instruction for the teachers, enhanced efforts on recruiting and retaining highly qualified teachers, increased opportunities for teacher collaboration and curriculum planning, daily school day intervention, and an emphasis on technology integration. We are still a one-to-one school device. This current school year, it was mandated that technological resources as well as SEL standards were included in all lesson plans. CBA continues its focus on data-driven instruction by the use of ongoing data analysis of our benchmark assessments, ongoing use of our data walls to track and monitor their progress on classroom assessments, and the ongoing process monitoring using personal education plans for our non-proficient students. For the 21-22 school year, there was also an increased focus on social emotional learning, so the integration of SEL standards and practices into instruction, as well as more focus on mental health implementations and practices, in which we had a lot of training provided for teachers, a lot more than in the past on mental health issues and students as well. So our last slide is just a few of our celebrations. We like to celebrate the fact that we are able to provide enrichment activities such as the 21st Century After School program, the STEM camp, and integrated K-8 STEM activities. The community partnerships and engagement from members of the community, having motivational speakers like officers from the Kinston Police Department to come talk to our students about gang violence, which is very prevalent in our community. Our mayor recently came by to have a conversation with our middle schoolers about their future career choices and decision making. We have about 3 teachers from Jamaica here, and they had made arrangements to promote global awareness. Our classes from kindergarten all the way up to 6th grade, they had Zoom classes with students in Jamaica, and they really enjoyed that. We've had a more meaningful team teaching, teacher collaboration, curriculum aligned field trips and field experiences to help foster or improve or involve the community with our SEL activities. We've had partnerships with our barbershop who came out to provide haircuts to our young men, and a lady that works at the salon. She came to do a beauty day for some of our young ladies. We also have a food and supply pantry available on campus for our students who are in families who are in need. And as far as partnerships, we've continued partnership with Lenore Community College to provide staff development. And this year, we were able to get a partnership with NC Pride to help serve as a mental health agency for students and families in need. So those are some of the major things we wanted to mention as celebrations as we move forward, trying to improve student achievement here.
Thank you for that comprehensive report. You noted early on that 60% of newly enrolled students were at least one grade level behind. What is that number of newly enrolled students that 60% of them came in behind? Do you have a ballpark? It's okay if you don't. I just wondered what the 60% was a percent of.
I don't. It was from that piece was actually used for last year's presentation. And the numbers that I had to come up with the 87%, I don't have that number in front of me at this moment. But basically, what I have our Power School data manager to do is, and like for this year, for example, I want to say maybe it was at least 20 newly enrolled, freshly newly enrolled students. And maybe out of that 10, majority, I can't think of the number. I don't have the number in front of me now. But she gets the numbers of newly enrolled students, and we every time a student enrolls, as soon as a child enrolls, we use our already diagnostic data to assess where they are. So that's where that percentage comes from. But I do not have the physical number in front of me.
Right. Well, we know that when you have one class per grade level, that you just add a few numbers and it can shift your percentages. So we understand that. And kudos to you for noting the regression. Even though you were meeting growth, you noted those subgroups needed some remediation, interventions, and you're tackling that. That's great.
Yes, ma'am.
I have one question. As far as mental health, there's an organization, to my understanding, that's pridenc.com, and there's an ncpride.org. Which one are you referencing as helping with mental health?
ncpride.org.
ncpride.org. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And that agency is based in Greenville, but they actually have an office here in Kinston as well.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so that concludes our school presentations. We have a couple more items. Do we want to take a quick break or?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, let's take is 10 minutes enough, you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's take a 10-minute. Ashley,
yes.
The 2 items that came back from SBE, where in the agenda do we talk about those?
Well, we're not planning on discussing those today. you guys next month.
Yeah, I don't want to actually discuss them, but people need to know why they came back, because otherwise we won't be prepared for next month.
Yes, I can tell you that, for the Wayne STEM Academy, we are trying to, we're gonna look into getting some more information about what exactly the, concerns were. So we don't have too much on that. Oh wait, so there were concerns about, for Wayne STEM, there were concerns about Legacy, I believe, the organization that.
The contract, that contract.
Exactly, the contract, we have, got some more information about that, so we will be updating the CSAB, before the May meeting to kind of exactly what we need to look into. Yeah, the green, the main concerns with that one was the relationship with Legacy and the developer, and the contract, which has already been, and Dave told State Board, I think on Tuesday or on a Thursday, that contract was like a boilerplate contract, and so they are going to, they've taken that clause out, regarding board members and being able to replace them. But we will provide more information on that. It was the Greenville one that we weren't completely clear. I know that, Ms. Camden's on the board had some concerns, so we were gonna try to reach out to the specific state board members that voted not to approve and get some more details, but as of now, I don't have those.
Okay.
Yeah, but we will definitely give you guys more information and provide you, with the applications, the previous discussion minutes for those two applications prior to May.
Okay, all right, thanks.
All right, so we're taking a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 12:47-ish.
I did get that website. Even though my computer tells me when I hit that Google link, it won't go there. It's spinning right now. It took quite a while to get it brought up.
discuss an update to our sub-grant application process and timeline. We took this to the state board last week and received approval. And we did that so we could start this process and get the ball rolling without having to go back to them in May. But we wanted to bring it to you all for your information and also to get your approval as well. And so due to the return of some of the sub-grant funding, we have more funding available than we had originally anticipated. When we spoke to y'all last in, I believe it was December, we were planning to provide some supplemental funding to existing sub-grantees because of a little amount of funding left. Now we're in a position where we have a little bit more, and in order to ensure that we're in compliance where 90% of our funds go directly to schools as sub-grants, and also just our ability to support more schools, we are planning to run another competition this summer. And so it will be a targeted competition to schools that are preparing to open for the 2022-2023 school year. There are 3 eligible schools in that category right now that would be available to receive sub-grant funds. And so with that competition, the maximum award amount would be $400,000. We have roughly $730,000 right now. That number always has the ability to change or go up as we continue to do monitoring of our schools in the program. Some of that money could come back for various reasons. But we wanted to have a little flexibility with what that looked like for this competition. So the maximum award amount is $400,000, and that gives us some flexibility for the types of awards and the amount that we could award these 3 schools. There are no changes to the application except for technical changes like dates and hyperlinks and things like that. Otherwise, the application and rubric and budget is completely the same as before. And the process would follow the following timeline. So letters of intent will be due on May 2nd. The application would then be released to eligible applicants in Epicenter on May 16th. And full applications will be due on July 1st. That would give applicants the same month-and-a-half timeline that they've been given in the past for previous application cycles. We would then use our standard external evaluator review process over the summer to review those applications and bring those recommendations to you all in August of 2022. If we can push it quickly enough, we would bring it to you in July, at the July meeting. And then we would take your recommendations to the state board for discussion in September and approval ultimately in October. If there are additional funds at the conclusion of that process, we would still plan to award supplemental funding to existing sub-grantees. So that will be limited to sub-grantees in cohorts 1 and 2 because they have been through the monitoring process and they have been in this program longer. And we would create an internal process for eligible sub-grantees to submit proposals to us that we could review and award any additional funding. Those submissions would not require a special application or rubric, but what we would require is that the proposals for supplemental funding address what new or expanded program goals the school hopes to achieve with any additional funding, why the supplemental funding is necessary to meet those goals, the specific activities that the sub-grantee would undertake to meet those new or expanded goals, and a clear breakdown and explanation of how the funds would be used to achieve those goals. And so again, we would give priority to, while cohorts 1 and 2 would be the only ones eligible, we would give priority to cohort 1 because those schools, the maximum funding levels that they were able to apply for in our first cycle were lower than all of the rest of the thresholds that we set moving forward. Schools that have met their overall and EDS enrollment targets to date would be given priority. Schools that don't have any significant deficiencies or findings in their most recent programmatic and fiscal monitoring reviews, and schools that are drawing down sub-grant funds at a rate consistent with their approved budget. So again, we would have more information as we move through the summer, but if there are additional funds available to provide supplemental funding, we would plan to do that later this fall. And I'm happy to answer any questions as a reminder, but I think you all know this is obviously a reimbursement-based grant, so we do approve budgets before any funding is released. We approve the reimbursement request for allowable expenses before any funding is released to schools. Schools have up to 5 years statutorily to expend their funds, and they can't expend more than 50% of those funds by the end of year 1 to ensure that we're able to do annual programmatic and fiscal monitoring for schools. And any unspent funds do carry over to the following year as long as it's within that statutory limit.
Jay, I didn't realize that participating schools had to register for a Dun and Bradstreet number?
Yes.
A DUNS number? Is that required of all charters or just charters applying for the NC Access?
So it is required for federal funding. The caveat that the federal government is moving away from DUNS numbers to EIN numbers, but it hasn't been a requirement to register in the system for awards management and receive federal funding.
So previously it was sort of in lieu of a federal number?
Correct, yeah.
EIN number, okay.
Yes, I think every charter school
They
has to
changed
have
that
it,
too.
because every charter school gets federal funds.
Yeah, so they've been using the DOD
Whether it's
number.
Title I
the DUNS
or
number.
EC.
Looks like a good plan.
Thank you. We would
Excited
ask
for the
for your
schools.
approval. Obviously, we've already taken the state board, but we would love for you all to vote on approval.
Well, are you ready for the motion? Madam Chair?
Do I need to recuse myself if I'm of school receiving funds, access funds?
Uh-oh, that excuses me then. I don't see the logic of that.
Does it matter if it's not any specific action based on the subgrantee and it's just the approval?
That's true, it's just a timeline, yeah, you're
Right,
right.
it's
So
just
it's
across
okay.
the board. right?
I would think it was okay.
It's just a timeline.
Yes, this is just the timeline for a new
Yeah.
subgrantee,
Right.
which you all would
I
be
agree.
ineligible for as existing subgrantees anyway.
Right. So
Well,
therefore, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What would you say? Well, I move that we approve the revised NC Access sub-grant application timeline as presented.
I'll second that motion.
All right, John Eldridge,
Aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Lynn Kroger,
Aye.
Hilda Parlay,
Approves, even though we had no discussion.
sorry. Shelley Pollard, Cheryl Turner,
Aye.
Todd Godby,
Aye.
Eric Sanchez. All right. Okay. All right, we have one more update. Okay. It's gonna be hard for me to see.
We are back to that, did you open 12?
All right, this is, so a caveat, this is not my workflow, but, our staff is, at Three Rivers today, so I'm giving this update, in lieu of Miss Porter. So I will do the best I can, and then if you have questions I cannot answer, I can get them to Claire for you. So, RTO updates. We, have completed RTO 1, so that's kind of where they submit different documents, give us updates. They have successfully completed that. RTO 2 items are due later in May. We will give you an update after that, and then at the June meeting, that's when all of the schools appear for interviews, or the schools that we have concerns about, not meeting all of the minimum guidelines. Enrollment report 3 is also due in May, which will kind of give updates to what we have now, but I'm gonna present you with like the most recent information we have. So, we have American Leadership Academy in Johnston. This is a K-10 school. Year 1 approved enrollment is 1,525. And they are currently at 125% of their approved ADM. So we have no enrollment concerns with this school. They are a new construction site. They have 2 buildings. The tilt wall panels are installed on building 1 with steel erection starting on Monday, April 4th, last week. The second building has foundation prepped and will have slab on grade by next week, that would be this week, with tilt walls completed by the middle of April. So they have told us that they believe they are fine for an on-time opening. And again, of course, we get another update in June, and then the requirement is that we have the COs in office in July. I believe it's July 1st, but I'm not positive on that. Any questions on ALA Johnston?
Just a comment, obviously their enrollment is in very, very good shape. I think they're optimistic on their building.
All right.
We probably need to suggest that they have a backup plan.
Okay. right, and I know all of our RTO schools are required to have some type of contingency plan, I just don't know this school's one offhand. Central Carolina Academy Charter, this is in Lee County, year one will be 6th to 10th grade with 282. And they are at 90% of approved ADM. So they're over the 75%, getting closer to their target enrollment. For the facility update, they have worked with Performance Charter School Development to purchase the former Circle K headquarters. They closed on the building in early February, and they are underway with the design and reconstruction. There's 55,000 square feet in the building, and they are focused on upfitting the third floor first so that they can have the space needed for first year enrollment. While the first year is underway, Performance will finish instruction needed on the other 2 floors. They're scheduled to open on August 10th, 2022, and if they cannot hit that target, they are working to secure space at the Dennis A. Wicker Civic Center until they can move into the building. So that is the latest facility update on them. It sounds like they're working on their contingency plan if the construction is not ready for opening in August. Any questions on Central Carolina? All right, Movement School Southwest, this is Mecklenburg. They are opening with K-1, 250, and they are at 27%. Enrollment, I do not know enough about what exactly is causing the low enrollment. So we'll have to have an update from the RTO workflow. But there is a lot of, in the materials you have and up here, there is an update in terms of their construction, and they believe they're on track to receive certificate of occupancy in July. They said they have received 137 completed interest forms for kindergarten, and that they're working to convert those to applications in school minutes. So I'm not sure if that is causing the kind of delay in the applications. And they've also stated that Movement Freedom is currently sitting at 140 applications for kindergarten. So they might try to get some of those applicants to move over to Movement School Southwest.
And they were accelerated.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, accelerated is just a very, very, I feel like it's a very hard, especially now with all the facility, challenges and enrollment is just, we've noticed that it's kind of been, even in counties that are, fairly, like Wake County, having a lot of charter schools, our Wake County schools are doing great with their enrollment, our RTO schools, so it's kind of hard to even predict based on the county. But Mecklenburg definitely is, I feel like the last couple RTO cycles we've had trouble with some of the Mecklenburg schools. So the next school is Oak Hill Charter School. We talked about them earlier today with the amendment. They're at 240% of their ADM of 192. They open with K-7. So smaller, I think they just have 1 class per grade, or they have smaller classes. They're in Caldwell. They already have their certificate of occupancy. They have sent that to us. They plan to occupy the Ruritan and the gym building in the first school year, the 2 buildings they have COs for. And they are trying to obtain a CO not only for the space that they intend to use for its first year, but also for the entire proposed build out of the school, totaling over 45,000 square feet. So they seem to be in good shape all around. Any questions on Oak Hill? All right, Revitalized Charter School, not going to talk much about that. We heard from them this morning. They are obviously struggling a bit with enrollment, and they are still working on getting that Facility B, their contingency plan at Garner Road Community Center. So I'm sure you'll be getting updates on them over the next few months. And then we have School of the Arts for Boys Academy, Saga. This is our Chatham County school. So we've calculated it with both 3 to 5 and 3 to 6. If you remember, you approved them to add 6th grade last month, so that went to state board last week. We didn't get many questions about it, so I would, most likely it will be approved next month, I would think. And with that 6th grade addition, they are at 45%. So still well below the 75% minimum that we look for RTO. They have also had difficulties with their facility. So they had a facility with I think it was called Autonetics. It was like a factory, if I'm correct. But they lost that when they were put on the standard timeline. So they are trying to work with a local church to get that squared away as their facility. And they've submitted, you can see there, and the materials online, they've submitted more detail on that. But we definitely are trying to work with them to get their enrollment up and then get their facility on track. All right, Wake Preparatory Academy, so this is Franklin, opening K to 10. They, their year one enrollment is set at 1,620, and they are at 205% enrollment. So we don't have any concerns with the ADM numbers. Their interior renovations are well underway for all 3 floors of the facility, and everything is on schedule. We don't have any concerns with the facility either for the school. And then that brings us to the last one, which is our Triangle Math and Science Academy of Apex. So this is the one of the schools we mentioned today that would be involved in that merger. This is Wake County. They will open with K to 5th grade, K to 5. Their target is 600 students, and they are enrolled at, or they have applications at 308%, enrolled at 308%. So they are well above their target. They have their land and the building started. I know they just put up walls last week, so they are well underway. They have all the supplies they need, and everything's on target to be delivered to the school on July 15th. So those are RTO schools that are scheduled, so I think it's 8. Yes, those are our 8 RTO schools that, if all goes well, will open in the fall. You will hear another update in May, you'll hear another update in June, and then of course, any schools that we have concerns with will come before you in June. In June, you make your final recommendations to the State Board of Education as to whether you recommend them to receive their charter or not. We have, in addition, we have several schools that are in delays. So we have Aspire Trade High School, Bonnie Coon Leadership Academy, Dogwood Classical Academy, and North Oak Academy. So those schools they're kind of added to our second RTO cohort. So the RTO cohort that will come up for opening in 23 will include those delayed schools, as well as whatever schools get approved by State Board next month. Mm-hmm. Any questions or any requests that you'd like me to make to the RTO team?
Just one, I guess an observation about Saga is because of the delay, they lost that building to Autonetics, and then they mentioned a church, but the very last statement says that they've been notified the church cannot be a school until next year. So essentially they're without a building. You haven't received an update?
No, we did meet with them, with the board chair, I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, and just kind of walk through kind of options and what they really need to be focusing on at this point. And I know they are working on it, but we have not heard any updates.
Okay.
All right, so before we adjourn, we just have a few administrative updates. I posted and I sent you the updated calendar. So I can only schedule out basically our calendar as far as I have approval for the state board calendar, which I have up until January 2023. So the new calendar, the changes that have been made from our previous calendar is that we will have, we had this one-day meeting today. We will have a one-day meeting in May 9th. And then in June, we've changed the meeting date from Monday to Tuesday, June 7th. And again, the reason we did that is because the RTO schools will be here Wednesday and Thursday, so it just makes it easier for those traveling out of town. In August, or in July, we have set our meeting date. That's always kind of a TBD date. We've set it for Monday the 18th, which will take place at the conference, the North Carolina Association for Public Charter Schools Conference in Wilmington. And I know most of you have already gotten in touch with me, so we will get that list to Rhonda Dillingham, who was here, for those of you who can attend. August, we never have a meeting. That's usually when school leaders are getting into schools. And then we've set the dates for the fall, which will most likely be our long meeting months because of the abbreviated timeline we are now on for applications. So.
Ashley, do we have any idea about how many applications we're gonna have?
At this point, we don't. It was kind of like every year we have like dozens and dozens of them kind of playing in the system, and I think last year we had like 80 something, and then we only ended up getting 21. So it's really hard for us to determine at this point.
When do they close? Is it the end of this month?
The end of this month? Yeah, so you will know before the May meeting, and then what we plan on doing once that closes, and we do our 5-day completeness checks to make sure that those schools that have completed items, that their applications are complete and can move on, then we will basically try to draft out a schedule for you. Like I did last time with the spreadsheet, that way you can get an idea of what this fall will look like in terms of how many applications we will need to review and interview.
So interviews would start in September, at the September meeting?
September, But it will give you more time to, like from when they close to when you start interviewing, to review. It will give everyone more time, to the evaluators, to review those applications before we go into interviews. And then the interview process is shorter. Any questions on the calendar? Can I get a motion to approve it?
I move that we approve the proposed calendar for the 2022-23 charter school year.
I'll second that. Or
Let John take it.
Any discussion? All right, John Eldridge,
aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Lynn Kroger,
Aye.
Hilda Crowley,
Approved.
Shelley Bullard, Cheryl Turner,
Aye.
Todd Godby,
Aye.
Eric Sanchez. Okay, so I will send out the revised calendar, and then once I get a draft agenda for May put together, I'll get that out to you as well. And I think if there are no other questions, that we may adjourn and have lunch.
I have a question, Ashley. Could you please send out again the link for getting hotel reservations for the conference in July? I know I saw it, I just can't find it anywhere.
I will. I think someone told me that they tried to do it and it was already filled up, that hotel, but I will send it out, because what I would suggest is going to that hotel and looking at the map. I did that, and there's a lot of other really good hotels within
Nearby.
distance. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and before we adjourn, I just want to tell everybody that I've really enjoyed working with each and every one of you, and I wish you best wishes. I hate to say it's my last meeting, but I know board service is probably one of the toughest volunteer roles, and it's been such an honor to work with all of you, incredible leaders in the state. And I will definitely miss the time that I spent here, and will utilize everything that I've learned for a lifetime. So, and Cheryl, wish you were here, but I really appreciate your tenacity, your perseverance and sacrifice. You're such a testament to charter schools, and you've distinguished yourself as a wise and sensible leader during the time I've gotten to know you, and it's just been such an honor and privilege to serve with you, Cheryl. And
thank you. I feel the same. I feel the same way about you. We will miss you terribly, and you don't have to leave yet. You're not gone.
Yeah, and Ashley, thank you for everything in the Office of Charter Schools, and Ashley, you were always there to just kind of keep me on task and keep me knowing everything. You just have it at our fingertips, so it's been great. And I miss not seeing Dave, our fearless leader. During his tenure, whether it was at Lincoln Charter or Office of Charter Schools, we've seen so much growth in the charter school movement, and we wouldn't be able to accomplish all that we have in the last several years, past years, if it wasn't for Dave's wise counsel and patient advice as we navigate these waters. So on a professional and personal level, I'm really grateful for the time that we spent together.
Thank you for your service.
Best of luck.
It's a pleasure
Yes.
knowing you.
How many years have you
This is my
served?
fifth year.
Fifth year.
Yes.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very
Your
much.
contribution.
We'll think about the budget sometime. Lynn would say.
Lynn, you wanna give us our motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
We miss you.
All in favor? Aye.
Alvin, it's probably moved and seconded.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's in favor? Okay.
Aye.
I guess.
All right. See y'all later.
Bye, thank you.
Bye,
Bye, Cheryl.
Bye.
Yeah.